Greetings, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart to find out what is in their magic. I am your co-host, Alex Dandino, soon to be joined by another guest, and of course, Josh Gray. But first, a little business. Friends, yes, that's true. We are on Patreon now. It's a wonderful month to contribute to our Patreon page. We got such cool stuff. For only $1 a month, we'll throw you on the Discord. You can talk to us about other stuff. And then if you pay $3, $5, $10, we can start letting you pick movies for the show. Who knows what could happen? Who knows? There's that. Also, again, we're on all the socials here on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. If you use Facebook, I don't know. We actually just had a question about that recently. But either way, Twitter, Instagram, we love them. We love y'all. We're there. Find us. We do all the same stuff you do. And please, as always, if you find the time, whatever podcast app you use, especially if you use Apple Podcasts, please rate, review, and subscribe to the show. We would really appreciate it. It's lovely when you do it. We always appreciate your love, your time. That's it. Guys, let's get to the pod. We have a very special guest for this episode. My friend Jay Rollins, who's a comic book artist that I know through, I think, just Twitter. We just met on Twitter and maybe a couple of anthologies. I can't really remember, but either way, Jay's a wonderful guy. An amazing pod we did about this amazing movie, The Witch or The Vivitch, depending on your feelings towards, New England typography. I'm not really sure. Either way, it was a really, really fun conversation. I love The Witch. So it was so much fun talking about this movie, talking about sort of the themes and everything that's going on. And Jay was just such a great host. He was so much fun. He actually asked us questions, which again is very, very rare and is very, very weird. But we had such a good time. It was so much fun talking to him. And now you get to listen to it. Here it is. We're back! Another day, another pod. I don't even know what day it is. I don't even know where this is in the schedule. We're bleary-eyed.
There are no days in the depth of the abyss. It's all over.
It's another awesome episode, guys. We are here with a friend of ours, Jay Rollins, comic book artist. Jay, how you doing?
I'm good.
Awesome.
I'm here to talk about the purity of Christianity and how you should follow it or bad things will happen.
Excellent summation of this. We're changing formats.
We're trying to get
Jay,
that Joel Osteen money.
For all the folks at home, tell us all what you do. You're a comic book artist. Tell us about yourself.
I'm an indie comic book artist. A bunch of stuff that I've done won't get published until next year, so I have nothing really to talk about. But I have a Twitter and an Instagram. My name, Jay Rollins Art.
It's great stuff. Hit them up.
Thank you.
That's exactly how we came across one another. I found you on the Twitterverse, and now we're going to talk about this. Jay, tell us the movie we're talking about today.
The Witch.
Yes,
The Vivitch.
The Vivitch. For those of you into New England typesets.
I can't believe we've never gotten to this movie yet. Would you like to start with why this movie leapt to your mind for you to talk about with us today?
It is so unabashedly just a folk tale. It is not taking a 21st century perspective on what a Puritan looks like. It is genuinely the story that the people in that town, whether or not it happened this way, told their kids happens if you leave the sanctuary of the town. That a goat got possessed and told the little kids to run around and told the mother to be idle even though there was work to do, and told the father to have pride. Like, that's it. It tells the story so genuinely.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love it.
You know what's funny? This might be the all-time biggest turnaround I've ever had on a movie. I was thinking about today. Because I remember the marketing campaign for this movie is kind of one of those first wave A24 things where everything was so slick and you're like, holy shit, I can't wait to see this. And I remember, I think it was the trailer said, this generation's The Exorcist, scary as fuck, whatever. I'm sure that last part wasn't in there. But I went to the theater and I was like, I am ready to just have my fucking hair blown back, right? And it's so funny watching this movie today, thinking back to my first reaction. I left the theater and I was fucking furiously mad. I left the theater and I was like, this is one of the most dog shit films I've ever watched. And I hated it. And I was so fucking
There's no
mad.
subtitles.
Maybe. I don't know what it was, but I just sat there furious, right? And I left and I went home and I told my wife, she's like, what are you talking about? You sound crazy. I was at the theater the next day before they opened, waiting. The guy, it was like Clerks. The guy walked in, he's like, yeah. And I was like, give me one for the witch, damn it. And I went back the very next morning because I had to figure out why I was so mad. And then it all kind of settled on me once the expectations had washed away. And now I absolutely adore this movie. I come back to it all the time. So I don't know what it was about that first viewing, but I think it's funny how just completely enraged I was. What did you think, Alex? When was the last time you had watched The Witch?
I think I watched it based on something you told me I had to watch it, and then it's one of those things I'm not a leap at the movie theater guy, so I'm excited to see things, but I'm not excited to see things to that point. This also is just again, not necessarily because of the marketing. I'm like, it looks really cool. I'm gonna wait for video on demand because I'm not jumping out of my I'm not jumping off my couch to go to the movie theater to see that kind of movie. So finally I saw it and it just fucking floored me. And I watched it at night alone. And it was, there are parts of it that are genuinely I was looking over my shoulder. And it's not, to me, after now several watches, it's not the scariest movie I've ever watched. But at the same time, it kind of is, because people are it goes back, there's nothing scarier than real people. Absolutely nothing.
People, yeah.
Nothing is scarier. You can throw whatever you want. You can throw the fucking devil in a movie, and nothing's scarier than the person that you have to deal with in front of you.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the funny thing, and Jay makes an excellent point, right? This is not a movie that's showing us, Fear Street, right? That's a modern movie showing us what it would be like to be back then.
Yeah.
So I think you're expecting this slick, hyper, kind of scary, stylized horror movie, and it's just so stagnant. And I think what happens is you just get stuck with these people, and you're struck by just watching it. Just watching this family devolve. 'Cause I think you mentioned it too, Jay. There's no reason to assume that any of this truly happened as we're being told, right? This could literally just be a family being consumed by the wilderness. And there are so many moments where the camera just lingers on family members, so excited almost to judge their children, husband, whoever, as an agent of Satan, rather than just admitting that they can't fucking hack it in this forest. And that is really something horrifying.
Yeah.
And what makes it a folk tale for me instead of a horror movie, I actually think if there is no witch with the giant mortar and pestle, if there is no Black Phillip wearing the 16th century Spanish clothes, if there's no
the old Puss in Boots outfit,
if there's no naked walk, so if there's none of that, but you still retain everything else, where you already know that this is a puritanical Christian father who has fucked up and won't admit it and keeps thinking that it's Satan. He keeps describing it as Satan, and every one of his follies befalls him. All that devolves into him killing his family. That's a horror movie.
Yeah.
If you made it just a psycho who thinks that it's Satan. What makes it a folktale is that the story is genuinely telling you his pride lets Satan in. And that's why this is all happening.
Yeah, well, there's this absolute subtext in the film, right, of just kind of taking the piss out of religion as a whole, right? And, not to shit on anyone who's religious. I think if that helps you get by the day, man, whatever. If you're not hurting anyone, do it. But there is this idea of people who look at religion from, where we are now, and that this idea of the God and the devil both existing at us at the same time, right? And that movie, this movie really drags that out in a brutal way. You know, there is a thought that, because that's something we just brush past, like, what do you have to do to be too fucking annoying to hang out with other pilgrims? You know,
Yes.
like, when they're just like, get the fuck out of here, you suck. And he's like, I'll not be judged by ye fake Christians. I'm like, dude, fucking hit the bricks.
Yeah.
Take your shitty dog and your scary looking wife and beat it. You like, what do you have to do to be worse than the people that fled society to go live in the woods and just be Christians?
Well,
And
they told him what it was. It's his prideful conceit. They told him it was his prideful conceit. They're literally saying, like, just chill the fuck out and you can stay.
Yeah, just
He's
shut
like,
the
I
fuck
would never
up.
stay with you. I would never stay with you. I don't even want to stay with you. I can build a house. You know why? Because I can chop wood like a motherfucker.
Like
watch
a
me chop
motherfucker,
wood.
yeah.
Watch me chop wood and watch me build a house. And that's, you know, within the construct of a little pilgrim society, being able to chop wood and being able to build a house, which we know he can do, is very important if you have other people who can do other things. But he thinks he can do it all.
Yeah, it's just so fucking strange, right? Because again, this might get me in trouble, but I feel like there are certain hobbies people have that are just more annoying than others, right? Like fantasy football guys, CrossFit guys, and religious people. Like when I meet someone and within like 2 seconds they start like talking about religious stuff, you're just like, oh boy, red flag. Like I'm looking for an exit strategy, right? The same as like there are just things that take up way too much of people's time. So you just imagine these pilgrims just out fucking slay. Because this is the other thing that kept striking me. It's like, so you are so devoted to God that you flee to this new world, right? This movie's constantly asking, what are you getting for that bargain and faith, right? It's
definitely.
Because that's what I notice is they leave society, right? So like, this guy's probably annoying them. They're just like, dude, we're just trying to like chop some wheat. Like, can we stop like with all the fucking high horsing?
Yeah.
But once they get out in that woods, right? You're watching this man really have to come to grips with his absolute nonsense, right? What happens when you go in the woods because you are the most pious man of all time and you don't find God out there, right? And maybe you think you find this fucking fairy tale witch or whatnot. That's a real brutal confrontation moment that we have to watch everyone in this family go through.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably it's interesting, like, pride's one of those like 7 deadly sins, you know. It's one of those 7 deadly sins we don't like really discuss enough because, like, in essence, pride ends up being much more about stubbornness and like like, and a lot of the time it gets rebranded by like as like unshakable faith, you know, like, and that I think is the thing that's makes this movie so unique. And like you were saying, Jay, like a folktale, is that this is like a man who believes at first that what it is, and obviously it changes over the course of the film, but at first, like, this is about his unshakable faith. It's better than everyone else's. It's like this brand spanking better faith in what? It's this pride. It's pride in your faith, and like that's not what faith is. And it's such a fascinating deep dive into like not even like what pride costs, but more just like what piousness beyond comprehension can cost you.
Yeah, he had an unshakable faith in himself. Mm-hmm. That was what this whole movie was about.
Yep.
Because like, okay, so he takes the cup and he sells it to Native Americans for 2 guns, and 2 traps. His wife later was just like, I wish we had that cup. We could have gone into town and gotten a fucking bushel of wheat. We could have got, and he's like, oh, so she's saying we should get food. He's saying I should get tools so that I can get us food.
Right.
And if you go into town, he doesn't want to go into town.
Nope.
He doesn't want to talk to another white person again. He's embarrassed.
Been there.
And
I think we all have this year.
No Christians he will never talk to another Christian again. He's better than them, and he's embarrassed to be around them all at the same time.
Well, it's the scene when his son is just laying there dying. And he's like, well, I got to gather up my shitty corn because we can't go back empty-handed. He cannot even admit to save his fucking child that he sucks at growing corn, right? Like, he just can't, he cannot stand that moment. And there's a lot of that. The one scene with the dad that I'll really remember, right? Because you have this moment of him he's on his knees crying as he's just wood chopping, like, save my children, I'm sorry, I'll lick the dirt. Ah. Well, when his son dies, right, and he follows Thomason out of the house, right, and he's kind of comforting her. He doesn't believe she's a witch, right? He would never have raised a witch. That's another sign of pride, right? His child couldn't be the witch. And he's holding her, and he's like, that fucking tree will be beautiful. We'll build this big barn. And it's not until she starts spitting facts in his face. It's like, you fucking suck at farming. All you do is chop wood. Look, the wood pile's taller than our house. That's all you are fucking good for. You suck. You can't hunt. You blew your fucking eyes up, whatever. When she starts saying that, you see him turn from this father who's kind of shielding her from the mother, right? Most of the movie. This hardened face, and he just goes, bitch! And launches in at her. Not because he thinks she's a witch who killed his son, but because she is finally telling him the truth that he knows, but he doesn't want to confront. And that scene is fucking horrifying, right? The fact that he sees his child as an enemy simply because they have agency to tell him a verifiable fact.
Well, and even the reason she launches into him like that is because he's acting like he's comforting her, but really he's doing that thing where you're talking about all the cool stuff you were gonna do. Mm-hmm. If all the stuff that wasn't my fault had happened, I was gonna build a barn. He's not saying it's all gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this.
That's a good point. Yeah.
He's talking about how great he is again, and she can't handle it.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like, for all the folk tale, this is like probably the most modern thing about the movie is this argument, this that scene alone is like the most like common thing among married people. I feel like it's like, you can't do shit. Like, neither can you. What the fuck you want me to do about it? Like, I feel like I like watching that scene. I was like, I feel like I've had this conversation, like, especially during the pandemic, locked in a house with my wife. Like,
yes,
we've had these fucking like blow ups where it's like, yeah, duh. We're both idiots. I don't know what you want me to do. Yeah. And she's like, well, you fucked up first. Like, it's all this whole...
Why are you buying another ukulele? You shut up. No, I mean, it's true, though. I mean, there was one weird part where I thought he was going to try to roll over on Catherine.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm 100% in for this, right? Like, normally I don't really care about sex scenes in movies. Whatever. This one, I was like, I got to see. Like, what is making it worth... like
which scene?
So there's a scene, I think it's when she's just like, it's after the dinner where they unfurl the cup, right? Or she talks about the cup. And he's like, what need if we had chalice? Don't fucking chide me about a chalice. And there's a little moment there where, he's like, I love ye. And she kisses his hand. And I was like, oh my God, they're going to like pilgrim fuck. And I was excited as hell to see what that bit looked like. So I was like, I feel like they would hate having sex so much. They obviously are doing it all the time. I forgot how many kids they had in this movie.
She's only horny for Jesus.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Yeah. That's what I mean. But you could just imagine he's just like, ugh.
Oh, see, and that's like furthering his pride of being so pious. Is like, oh, she loves me for the Lord. Like, it's even worse. Like, then that's another sin.
So
you're like,
assuming
you're God yourself.
He heads out with the little Jesus thing around his waist while he chops wood. It's literally him. Like, it looks like they might be intimate, not even sex, but maybe like give her a kiss on the face,
anything.
And then he literally just does the like, I'm gonna go work out.
Have my whey protein shake ready when I get back in. No, it's fucking bad. But there is a lot of that with every, because the character today I thought was pretty interesting. It was really leaping out at me was Caleb. Because I think he's kind of the case study of this film, both realistic and supernatural, right? Because supernaturally, he's kind of the point case of, do I think that there's a witch in this movie?
Right.
Because he goes out with Thomason, right? Whatever. Dog runs away. There's this fucking devil rabbit that keeps tormenting him. He chases it down. And his ultimate undoing is kind of a funny one, right? Where I was like, the only one who could narrate this segment of the story feels like Caleb. Because one of Caleb's motifs through the movie is every time he's near his sister, he's got to just stop and lock eyes on the tits, right? Like, he's really into the like blossoming young sister, right? So there are a lot of these weird close-ups of like him looking at cleavage. When he sees the witch, right? almost every kid on Earth, even if you have a gun that's 3 times as tall as you are, you're going to fucking run away. Why does he not run away? Because when he sees the witch, he comes out and leans down and just a bountiful amount of cleavage. And I was like, he's fucking undone by the tits. His sin of the movie. And so that's the scene where I was like, if Thomason's our narrator, did she know that he was always looking? Was that tickle fight by the creek a little more nefarious? And so she just added the busty witch into the story. So that's why, like, maybe there was a witch, right? But even more, just watching this boy follow his father today, that was the scene I loved when he's having him repeat the prayers he learns, right? And this and that. And he's like, we are born in sin. And it's this really sad look into the father and how this is going to damage his son, right? That there is no time in a human being's life, according to the father, that he thinks anyone is worth a shit, right? We're all terrible. We're all sinners. We're just waiting to get to the next place. And how does that play out when you're telling that to a kid, right? So I think Caleb is this perfect kind of caught in the middle character of the film.
Yeah. He's the only one who wants to do best for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
In a
And,
weird
like,
way,
true
he's
best.
doing what the father thinks he's doing, right?
Yeah.
But he's got that gluttonous lust altogether. I put gluttony in there too because he already had caught a rabbit. The rabbit is clear.
That's
the
right.
shot definitively says he has a rabbit. He's got a bird in the hand.
Mm.
And this rabbit runs off because he could get more for his family.
Mm-hmm.
The him looking at his sister stuff is also Dad's fault because he took this burgeoning child away from every other woman in the world.
Yeah.
This is how weird hillbilly cults started.
It's true. It's
You're not
true.
wrong.
I mean,
I can't disagree.
It's gonna happen no matter what, right? You need to have other human beings around. Yeah, that tickle fight scene today was very strange. That was a little twisted.
The tickle fight, I still see it as she sees him as her little brother.
You think? I thought she wanted one person to not put shit on her and like kind of hold her up.
I just think, honestly, this is like, I do love this movie, but there's that moment doesn't ring true for me.
Mm-hmm.
The directing just didn't do it right.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, I couldn't figure out. I think that's where, for you, the like, what is happening here? It's coming from. I just don't think they could figure out what the tone was of that moment. Yeah. And fake giggling always looks like fake giggling.
Yes, that's a good point.
True.
Well, it's also, I mean, they are young actors. That one of the scenes that I think is I always waffle on it, right, is Caleb's grand finale speech, right? And you see this kid just giving it every fucking thing he's got. But to your point, it brings pretty false most of the time.
Oh, yeah, no. That moment, like, that kid was amazing in that moment.
I mean, yeah, he's really going for it, but he does the fake laugh a couple times. And you're like, yeah. But, you know, he's having a fever dream as his body reacts to this, you know, fatal infection, as we see.
So do you think that the movie has no witch and no devil?
I personally think it's a more fascinating movie if it's just this family's neuroses, right? I kind of feel that way about The Shining. They're very adjacent. I think The Witch kind of relieves the pressure of them having to confront their sins and decisions, right? It feels a little bit cop-outy. I like the idea that The Witch is just this subtle thing that lives in all of their minds that they're weaponizing against each other. But I don't know if I definitively think there's no witch.
Well, for me, if it's a supernatural movie,
mm-hmm.
The witch, the devil is the bad guy. The witch is just took the baby, and after that, the devil is the one creeping in. And
not only just took the baby, but like that scene is fucking. It is one of those funny things.
And they
looking
hardly
back, I'm like,
show anything, and you just feel it.
You know what it was? They have that like 1.5 minute. It feels like a long time. I'm guessing it's like 1.5 minute of just the camera's right on top of that beautiful little baby's body. And you see his naked, perfect baby body and this weird kind of old body behind. And then she holds the knife by his belly. So you're just seeing this perfect baby and you just want to like slide him out of the frame. And so you don't have to see anything else.
The cut to black is like 2 beats.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You fill in the blank and then.
Yeah, I think it's the pestling the baby. I was like,
pestling
God damn.
is the
and
thing
then, like,
that is like
stroking
the worst.
Stick. Yeah. Yeah, that is vile.
The pestling thing is watch it. The first time I watched this movie, I had to pause it. I think I had to stop it actually. Like I literally stopped watching it for like 20 minutes. I'm like, that was the most brutal cut I've ever seen in a movie. It was like, because you're right, like it's all in your mind. So like the minute you get back to the frame and you see the pestling stuff, you're like, oh, I know what it is. Oh God.
Yeah.
Like it's
they set that up with that screeching, soaring score, right? The first time I think we hear it is when they close the gates on them, as if they've now entered this other reality, right? Mm-hmm. And that witch scene, I mean, it's like whoa, like it just hits this peak of intensity. So okay, we should talk about this. This is interesting, right? Is there not a witch, right? Because I think the peekaboo scene is just classic, perfect horror movie filmmaking, right? That peekaboo scene is just flawless. Mm-hmm. And later when Thomason's being descended on by her father, she's like, I didn't see any wolf, right? So there is this, is that a moment where she's trying to rewrite it because now she's buying into the mass hysteria, right? And trying to deflect and throw blame here and there. So there's a couple, so we see Caleb has the run-in with her in the woods and then the baby's gone and this and that. Is it the kids fucking singing their creepy-ass Black Phillip song about how he's the king of the land and sea and has a crown of horns, whatever the fuck they're saying?
Well, that's their prayer to Satan. Yeah.
That's what there is like kind of two competing things,
bringing
right?
him in.
Yeah, did the kids summon Satan, right? So if there's Satan, then it's not weird that there's a witch. The witch to me is more just nature itself, right? She is just a predator out in the woods and they are prey, right? She's not some necessarily supernatural force. She's not like out there giving them like poison apples and, cloaking herself. She's just like, oh, you're outside my house, I'll eat you right now. Great. Right.
Well, he literally spit out a poison apple though.
Yeah.
That's true. He did.
He spits out the whole apple.
That is definitely a supernatural thing if we're to believe that these people are, honest narrators at this point of the film and not fully fucking insane.
I think
we don't really. Go ahead.
That's the best evidence for it being a real.
See, but I think the movie itself is. I'm not sure. Like these people, I like Jay's point about the folktale. Like this is a thing that gets passed down from like era to era to era, and like now it's a movie. But like the narrator is not any of these characters in the movie. Like we're following this story. We ourselves are the narrators of this story. Like. If it's a true folktale, if we're looking at this as a true folktale,
which is specifically in the title, yeah,
right, it's a nuanced story because it comes from a certain point of view. So let's say in this case, let's say Eggers is the teller of the story. Let's say Robert Eggers is the teller of this story. This is a story he heard 4 billionth hand, wrote it into a movie. So what he's doing is interpreting the story, and then whatever pieces he left out, he's creating on his own. Like, so really when you think about it, this movie, the overall tone actually is much more about like what we're doing right now. That's what this folktale is. The interpretation of what this is and how these stories go on and how you pass this beat and pass this story on to to the next person you tell it to. That's what the folktale is meant to be itself. Like,
and this is what old German folktales looked like. Like this is what you would tell your child. You would say, if you leave these walls and go into that wood, somebody is going to eat you.
Totally.
So like to that point, that's a really good way. If we're saying this is a folktale, if it's like he's recounting a real folktale that happened, this would be whatever actually happened. Like some kind of like dad went crazy and killed everybody. When the people from the town came out and saw the mayhem, they went back and they told this story, and this story got passed on and embellished and whatever. And it's really simple. This is why it's very it's very purely, to me, a cautionary tale for other Puritans, because what are they really doing? It's little kids running around being maniacs. That's what little kids do. It's a 13-year-old boy being horny, whatever. It's a dad who's a little bit distant from his family. That happens. But these are just incredible sins within this movie.
Yeah.
And okay, so what's your view from the perspective that it's not that there is no supernatural? What's your view on, she signs the book, she disrobes, she walks through the woods, she sees all the ladies, she floats up, laughs, this is the season of the wind, yeah. That,
Hell
like,
yeah, metal
what's
as
your
fuck.
vision on what that is?
So I think this is actually, you're kind of helping me congeal a lot of these thoughts, right? So this is someone in the society, probably a very horny old man in the fortress we left. That's why the dude left, because he's like, I knew you were looking at my daughter's tits. And that's why the witch had giant tits, right? Because it's some old creep at the pub or whatever. So I like the idea of that, right? And also, in recounting it, those people would have a vested reason to make these supernatural elements pop, because their whole life is built around religion, right?
Sure.
That was their whole
And let's
cause.
not forget, they fucking hate that guy.
Right.
Exactly right. So seeing
Look
him
what
be
happens.
falsely pious
Yeah.
and
Right.
be destroyed is, just like a wet dream scenario for them, right? A choose your
Right.
own wet dream adventure for them. They are loving that story. So
Right.
to me, there's something that I loved in the movie they did, right? Like when we first see, Anna Joy Taylor, right? She's sitting there. She's like, they do a lot of this where she's directly dead in frame, right? And she's kind of looking up, right? Looking up, head bowed, praying, asking for something, right? Someone's judging down on her, telling her something is happening that's going to change her life. And they do that shot several times in the movie. What I love about that finale, right, is when she's fucking starting to float and laughing. When she brings her head forward, her eyes are obscured by shadow. And the last thing we see is we look up and she's way the fuck up there above us, right?
Right.
That by embracing herself, right, she has this new freedom and, power.
Finally truly happy.
Yeah, and I thought that was really cool. I mean, I'm sure if you're doing the folktale retelling, right, 'cause I think it actually all makes sense, right? If you look at it as this is a family that just lost their way. The father even says, like, we will conquer this wilderness. It won't consume us. Well, it fucking does, right? And maybe she runs away from a father who's about to kill her or whatnot. And this is how they would imagine that. So for her, I like the idea of, I tried to be pious. My whole family gave everything to this God, and what did we get? It's the classic book of Job, which they even mention in the movie, right? That's one of those stories that I remember hearing at school, and they're like, see, look how good of a Christian Job was. He let God kill his whole family and his fucking house and all his livestock so he could, like, prove, like, a barroom wager with the devil. And, Job hung on, and now, it was cool after that. I'm like, yeah, I'm
Right.
sure Job just put away all that emotional baggage and had a great rest of his life. That's fine. I know the end of that book is much shorter than the start. And I think this is a very Job-like existence, right? Like, when everything gets fucking taken away from you, and she's sitting there like, I didn't fucking do anything wrong. My mom wanted to murder me and called me a slut like I was seducing dad. So there's all this, like, built up, scabs they're peeling off, right? These emotional wounds. In that moment when she hits her mom and kills her, right? She kind of lays there under her for a couple seconds. And I think that's just a death and rebirth moment, right? That she's done. Everything she's ever had is gone, right? You could not be further from her warm memories of her house with windows in England, right? And I don't know if the ending is something that I truly think would happen, or if that's just, I mean, if it does, then it makes perfect sense. Like, yeah, I want to fucking live deliciously. This life is shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I absolutely want to live deliciously. So, I don't know. I waffle a lot. I personally think the movie is just so brilliant in how they play out the building tension of these people. And there's a clear hatred of everyone in this family, of everyone else in the family. I think they all know they fucked up.
Yeah.
And you're in so deep, and there's no getting out of it now.
I mean, I think it's
inevitable.
like a trickle down thing, though. Like, the dad hates himself because he's fucked his whole family.
And
but he can't say anything. But yeah, he totally knows it, but he can't say anything. So he's, like we said already, he's living off this like false pride. The wife hates her husband because he fucked everything up, and she now has to deal with the fact that, like, not only that, like, they don't live in a society anymore. They have to live in the woods, and there's a lot more shit to do. And not only that, like, there's four kids, including a newborn, you know?
5.
Thomason, you know, 5. Sorry, 5. Jesus Christ, there's so many kids. My God. Thomason hates her parent. Thomas hates her parents because they're total dicks. And not only that, like halfway through the movie, they're like, "We might have to send you to another family. I don't know what's going on." Like, you know,
well, which is a ridiculous idea.
It's insane.
I think the moms. Everybody has their own sin. Dad is pride. The mom is jealousy or covetousness.
Oh, that's
good. There's a certain point. There's a certain point where she wishes she had the life that she had before. There's also when she finally starts yelling at Thomason and tells her what she really thinks. She thinks she's gonna fuck her son and her husband because she's young and pretty. That's what is going on. She also so let's put on we're within the folktale and this is supernatural hats for a second. When you were talking about what's the kid's Caleb's little laughy prayer, what I saw there was Satan coming in and mocking the mother, because the mother had just described when she came to Jesus when she was about Caleb's age. She saw him as more comforting and more tender and sweeter than the most loving husband. And then he, from my perspective, throws back at her the exact prayer that she said on that day, laughing, because that's Satan talking. Caleb's already dead.
Yeah.
Satan is describing, and it's, I will sit in thy lap. He's like, you weren't praying to Jesus. You were masturbating, thinking about the sexy man on that cross. It was me there with you.
That's true.
I think she was sexy for Jesus.
If you go to Hobby Lobbies, there's like a whole genre of hot Jesus merchandise, and it is weird to say the least. You know, I actually saw that scene pretty similar, but just from an alternate version. I thought that was a reinforcer that there was nothing supernatural. I looked at it as this family sitting there and this mother and father having to watch this son who's out of his mind with fever or whatnot just regurgitate the nonsense that they've been feeding him for years. And when you hear it coming out of this fucking fever-sick boy's mouth, how insane and stupid it sounds. And they're watching in horror like, oh shit, these are our own words being used against us. And then watching their other kids just turn, right? Like those two little twins are just the fucking worst, right? They're absolutely the worst.
What a bunch of instigators.
Yeah, and they're just sitting there like, so as their one son's dying, they're trying to pray it out, and he's saying all this horrible shit that they've said, right? They've heard it out of their mouths. Their other kids are like, she did it, no, they did it, and they're faking, and when the two twins start repeating what he's saying, that to me was like a parenting moment. I don't know, maybe, I think about that with my kids, like when you hear them say something you've said, and you go, ooh, fuck, like I don't want everyone to know out in public that that's how I talk all the time. Right? When you hear them say like, God damn it, or something like that, it's like, oh, that's, the Father's words coming from the mouth of babes. So I don't know. I think, that could also, be.
It sounded like a mocking prayer. It sounded like that's why he was laughing.
Yeah, I kind of like,
If you listen to the first part of that, the very beginning of it is this kid terrified and screaming, Jesus, please save me. Jesus, please save me. And then he rises up and he starts smiling and bring me to your bosom and let me sit upon thy lap.
Of course, bring you to the bosom, Caleb. Goddamn.
I think
bring
Caleb
that kid
died.
A bosom.
I think Caleb died back here.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
And the devil's just having a little bit of fun before he goes.
All right, so I was trying to look it up, right? Because now you've intrigued me. There are 7 members of this family, and there are 7 deadly sins.
7 deadly sins, okay.
And that was one of the scenes that I fucking loved, was when the father couldn't even tell Caleb that the baby wasn't burning in hell. that a newborn baby somehow is just this carrier of sin because that's what we are. I was like, that is a stunning admission by this man to his son, right? So I don't know what exactly the baby would be. I guess sloth. He's the only one not doing anything.
No, the kids are play idle games. Oh no, maybe mom is sloth a little bit.
Yeah,
I think mom's sloth. Yeah, she doesn't
but
want
she's
to help with
depressed.
the chores, man.
I mean,
She's
the mom
depressed.
could be anger for sure too.
Wrath happens from everybody eventually.
I don't know if this is the official list. I don't remember anger, right? But it says pride, envy, gluttony,
wrath.
lust.
Wrath is anger.
Wrath, that's it. Wrath. And greed, right? So I don't know who these all would fit under, but it would be fun to rewatch the movie and try to see who that would be.
I don't think they all get deadly sins, but they all have some sort of sin.
Yeah.
The deadly ones that's a whole Catholic thing. They're not Catholic.
Yeah, right?
They're the freaks.
No.
But I think if there is like outside of like for the viewer or for anybody who would read this folktale, I think a good message from this movie is almost chill out, almost what the guy was telling him at the beginning, where like if you are so by the book and so pure, following the rules, whatever it is, that you can't even like lie to your child, even if you believe like he wasn't baptized, he's going to go to hell. Even if you believe that, just like give your son some hope.
Yeah,
Caleb's like 9. Shut up.
He can't. This dude can't have fun at all.
Yeah,
and that's why he was kicked out. When you're not fun enough for the Puritans.
Yeah.
And that's what leads to. That's literally what leads Thomas into the witches. Like she'd like some fun.
I mean, that is the most
that
logical
like
decision of all time, right? For Thomason at the end, like that's a no-brainer decision.
I imagine Thomason is still alive in the 20th century as a kick-ass witch just wandering around looking for babies.
I like to believe that I love, because I mean, like the Black Phillip reveal at the end is like one of those like just all-timer scenes
when that voice drops, because you for a second are like,
the voice is incredible insane? For one. But then the other thing that I love about is like he doesn't just go straight to like, because like living deliciously could be like misconstrued. It's a little bit, could be a little out there. He literally lists like, you know, do you want a dress? Like
y'all want some butter? Y'all want that butter?
Do you want like cool shit? Like it.
Yeah, he doesn't lead with "See the World."
No,
"See the World" happens eventually.
Yeah,
there you go.
He literally is like, do you want?
I
just
think the
like
first
to
thing
taste
he says
food
is butter.
And
are you tired of your flat and flavorless bread?
It literally starts with, do you want to taste good food and do you want to wear nice clothes? Like, those are like the basics of humanity. And like, of course she's going to say yes. Who the hell wouldn't?
Yeah. Well, I think this is the thing, though, right? It gets back to this when we build these societies, right? Because we don't have to do the work of everything, which they have to do on this farm, we're able to build these kind of myths and fairy tales and tell ourselves all these things about ourselves, right? We have more time for that kind of shit. And I think what happens is as you leave society, I heard this once, right? It was an interesting thought on religion, right? That if we were wiped out by an asteroid and the next like civilization after us rises up, right? Hundreds of years, thousands of years in, whatever, however fucking long the timetables are, they would come back to physics and gravity and these kind of like scientific truths, right? But all of their religions would be wildly different than us, right? And based on none of our religions would come back as they are because they would be based now on the stories of their times, right? And I thought that was a really interesting idea. And this movie kind of hinges on that. The further you get out from society, you are just met with the absolute brutal nature of the world. And what happens when your myths and stories about yourself and your God and your family, all of these things just get fucking crushed by reality. And what do you have left, right? Because by the end of the movie, he picks up that little fucking kid, right? And he's just like, I'll put an axe in his fucking face. And I was like, yeah, he's done. Like, that guy is spent. He's got nothing left to give a shit about. And it's grueling to sit through for all of it. The mom fucking crawls in the grave with Caleb. It is just this unrelenting misery for all of these fucking people. There is a scene I want to ask about. What do you make of? Was that crow really breastfeeding?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And what happened in that barn?
Caleb, when he's in his fever dream, he says, a great black dog, a wolf, a crow, the axe swings. So I don't know, man. I'm still in the camp that I think it's all real.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I guess he does. I think it's because I always get hung up on the wolf thing, but yeah, dude, I think it's real.
He swings the axe. Yeah,
well, Black Phillip could be the wolf, technically. The wolf.
That's true. Black Phillip could be the crow.
The wolf
Black
in,
Phillip
in
is
lamb's
all of
clothing.
them.
That's true. Black Phillip is all of that shit.
Black Phillip is
totally.
Satan is the rabbit. Satan is Black Phillip.
Yeah.
The big black dog, I can only assume is their dog that gets killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, perhaps. But yeah, we see a witch actually drinking from a teat and then just massacres those kids and leaves Thomason. I guess that becomes the question then, right? So if this is all supernatural and the mom didn't just like tug on her boob until it bleeds in the night or whatever, has like runner nipples or whatnot, and it's like really a crow going at it, why is Thomason left amidst that carnage? Why are the parents and Thomason left alive?
Do you think it maybe is because she knows? Not to say she knows what's going on, but like, do you think it maybe is because of all the sins, her sin was simply to like, it's envy of another life. That would be Thomason's sin.
Thomason, they want her soul. They want her to sign the book.
That
true. Works. Yeah, that's
they
true.
Need to get everybody else out. They also had mom sign the book. Because
that's the thing, so if the mom signs the book, why have Thomason kill her? Like, why are you taking out
I don't think they
recruits?
planned for Thomason to kill her necessarily.
Oh shit.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe Thomason killing the mother was like, they're like, well, she's in now. I mean, there's really no reason for her not to sign the book.
Yeah.
Your soul's legacy.
Let's get rid of everybody except for the adult women. We need some more witches. Oh, shit, she killed her. All right, well, remove that shit. That's true. Let's do this.
Oh. Yep.
Yeah, because she comes out and the mom is very different in that moment. She doesn't seem as tormented now. Now she is this vengeful. She wants a piece, right? Like there is although actually, because that's what Caleb's saying to her, right? Is like, you'll get to spend all the time with us.
Right.
So maybe she is she signed the book, right? So he gets the soul still, but really she is there just to push Thomason over the edge. I don't know. Yeah. I thought that whole scene was really. I liked the way that all rolled out because also they just wake up the next morning and they're just in bed together, right? Her and the dad and I was like, did you not notice her getting up with the candles lit and the fucking crow squawking and nibble biting and like none of that woke you up?
He's sleepy. It's been a long week.
Yeah, because that segment to me felt really false.
Was that? Well, that's right before he has to like
the barn.
Wait, was that the night?
Wow. Is he in the bed and she's doing
next
that
morning,
in the bedroom?
He's in the bed and he wakes up, right? And he crawls over her and we see her bloody tit, right? And then he goes out and gets his axe and that's when he's like, oh. And he sees the barn has been split open and there's, carnage. Well, and that's when Black Phillip ganks him, yeah.
Black Phillip, yeah.
But she is in the bed with him and he's there in the morning, right? So that's why I was like, that scene is one of those weird where the two halves of the story collide, right?
Is that the same night he's outside praying, like telling everyone he's God? It's the same night, right?
And then he goes in and goes to bed.
I know I fucked up. Like,
and everyone gets fucking eaten. Also, like, they didn't hear the scream of the children being fucking mangled by the witch. Is the father bewitched at that point? There's a lot going on in this segment of the film.
I think by this time you have to assume that the witch or Black Phillip has literally he's set all these pieces up. They're all just going to take a fall. They're all falling down.
But it's the thing. If you take it as this is someone's retelling of what they think happened to this family, then it doesn't really, it's not that strange, right? Then this is the moment when everyone has to pay up for their sins, right? So the father's laying there impotent, unable to help as all this carnage is happening. The mother's already ready to move on and fucking sacrifice her babes for the two she lost. Then it all makes sense from a, someone who's trying to get a point across to a kid folktale segment, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's what I take away from this movie the more I watch it, is I love the fact that the movie never settles one way or another, right?
Well, even Thomason waking up that morning didn't know what happened.
Right.
Yeah.
This is magic stuff. So like
That's true.
The fact that they couldn't hear them inside the house, the fact that she didn't know what just happened is weird enough, but
I agree. I like that this is, I mean, again, I like that it's and you said it perfectly at the top, Jay. Like, I like that it's a folktale. Like, it's a folktale. So of course there's stuff that, like, because we watch movies, we're going to poke holes in certain levels of logic. Like, you're not going to hear people get murdered in the middle of the night. Like, of course not. It's a story. Like, it's a folktale that you would always tell. And like, that would absolutely not be a thing. Like, yes, everyone was sleeping and then they were not awoken by the sounds, but that happened for sure. Like, it's,
well, I think that's what it does brilliantly. Is I don't think of that as like trying to poke plot holes, right? I think what they're telling us is that if you think this is a supernatural film, it works perfectly. Yeah. If you think it's not, and it's a retelling of this family that turned in on themselves and destroyed each other, it also still works perfectly, right? Like, this isn't one of those that gets too caught up in the rules of the magic, right? A lot of horror movies want to explain away the processes and the rules, and they fuck themselves up, right? I call that the It Follows conundrum, right? Brilliant fucking conceit that by the end of Act 3, you're like, none of this works and makes sense. It was a really fun ride, but it just doesn't add up at all, right?
That movie, actually, I was with you when I was on the same page first time I saw that movie.
Yeah.
It took me about 3 times to just roll with how it was doing it.
Yeah, and it's such good filmmaking that you're just like, I don't care by the time you get to like all of those things, right? But I think this one it just leaves this very ambiguous kind of cloud over the whole story, right?
Right.
And you never quite know. It's funny because it feels so ultra realistic to the time, but you never feel like your feet are on solid ground. You never actually know what the fuck is happening the whole movie. Yeah. And I think that helps just build this sense of dread that a lot of movies just never capture.
Yeah, and it's so quiet.
Oh, yeah.
I noticed this when on the rewatch when Samuel disappears. There's no crescendo. In my head, there's a crescendo. It's just he's gone.
Yep.
Yeah. They also that movie is really good for a second viewing too, because you know what's coming. And she does the peekaboo at the camera like 3 times, and you keep thinking it's about to happen. This whole movie is suspense without relief almost the entire time.
There's no moment of like levity, right? The closest you get is 1 minute when the father's like, I stole your fucking cup. And the mother's like, now I'll be mad at you. And she kisses Thomason on the forehead. And it's like, that's like the only kind of moment of sweetness. Maybe the tickle fight. You're like, so they're like so fucking few and far between.
The one for me that I love, there's 2 moments with the kid. I love those little kids, even though that they're the maniacs who brought Satan into their home. I like leave thy sister be. She likes it. I think that is one of the funny.
That is a good beat.
But like those little kids are the fun for me, even though like that's supposed to be like from the perspective of like a pious person. One of the like they're not paying attention to their wild children. They want to yell at the only one that's good.
Oh my God,
and they want to discipline. They want to like Caleb is trying to do good, but they'll never tell him what he needs to do.
Right.
They just think Thomason's got this. Meanwhile, these 2 fucking creatures, like they literally have them like on a kid leash. Like
oh my God, the scene when they're calling for the kids and they're just like fucking on the ropes.
No, they're hilarious.
They're tied up.
And besides for the actual becoming the witch scene, which is like the becoming the witch scene it's like Midsummer, where like you're happy for her.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely
but, like,
happy.
The road to get here, like It's like, hey, listen, I don't condone it, but this is your lifestyle now. If it makes you happy, whatever. But like, besides for that moment when she is fucking with the little girl and she's just like, I'd be the witch of the wood. I feel so like happy for her. She just snapped.
Yeah.
You know what's funny though? Watching that again today, that scene makes me so sad because you're like, fuck, she's signing her own death warrant. Like, her just snapping at her sister, she's absolutely giving the ammunition to kind of completely send her mother over the edge. Because, again, you see them so desperate to put the blame on her. The mom wants to pin her the whole fucking movie.
Because she's jealous of her.
Yeah, and so two fucking crazy kids that have acted like little assholes the whole movie, when they start freaking out, she's like, they're a perfectly logical source of information. Like, I'll take
these are
their
my
word
sweet little
for it.
babies.
Yeah, it's fucking brutal, man.
And the little girl is the very first person to say that there's a witch of the wood. Not a single person ever said witch. Nobody said witch. They said wolf. It was a wolf. But she heard it from Black Phillip. And so I
saw her in her red cloak, she said.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah. I saw her riding
exactly
in her red riding cloak.
Yeah.
And she's full of shit. She when she says, like, we as the audience almost believe her. She said she was a witch. She said it. I'm like,
yeah,
you know it's not true.
Yeah, but you just watch them shake, and you're like, fuck, they're gonna kill Thomason because these fucking kids.
They were even faking it the whole time that they were laying down. Because as soon as that was actually like a part that I forgot, that Dad was on board. After Thomason explains what happened, Black Belt, she whispers, they whisper to a goat. That's the devil. It's got to be the devil. And he's just like, oh, shit, okay.
He's like, wait a second.
And then when he picks the kid up, the kid starts screaming. He's like, oh, you were full of shit.
Yeah. But no, I mean, there's a great moment, right, when he boards them up in the fucking sty, and there's that great shot of them just like chilling by Black Phillip. And Thomason just says, are you witches? And I was like, that is low-key terrifying, right?
Yeah.
Because at this point, she doesn't even know her own fucking reality, right? Because you see when Thomason gets dragged out and she's telling the father and he's cursing her out and threw her on the ground, she immediately turns it on those kids. They're the fucking witches. And listening to you talk, you're like, maybe they are the fucking patient zero.
Totally are. They're talking to Black Phillip, and then he was a dude.
So fucking quick to just be like, yeah, go kill those twins. You're like, holy shit, man, the knives are out. The familial bonds are done.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really, I mean, I think that kind of stuff is the things that really scare the shit out of me about this movie. Because you can imagine, I mean, it's Lord of the Flies. There are so many classic tales like this. When you take us out of our safe spaces and all of this fucking politeness and bullshit goes away, what are we capable of? And it's fucking horrifying. I will ask you this, though. So the kids are talking to Black Phillip. How did this meeting happen? When do you think this occurred with the kids? And when they went out to the woods, were they just more... Because I didn't see Black Phillip in the cart. That's what I was looking for today. But they obviously must have brought him...
They always whisper and sing with, where did he come from?
Yeah. You think they brought him from the plantation? Was he there just waiting for someone to wander off?
So between going to the plantation and the very next scene is a while because he built a whole house.
Yes, that's true. Yep.
So they must have just like they bought seed, they bought flour, they bought a goat.
Yep. So the fucking Satan goat, or the goat could just be the portal, but
yeah, no, it is. Yeah,
because the rabbit. I wondered if it was the rabbit first, and then
it's also the rabbit.
He became
because the rabbit
into Black Phillip. Yeah, I didn't know.
The rabbit is black too, and the raven.
Whoever is the animal casting director found the most satanic eyeballed animals ever. Just crushed it.
Yeah,
crushed it on the evil animal castings.
It must. I think it's our like humans have like the forward-facing eyes, the predatory eyes, which have emotion in them.
Yep.
Prey animals it's just in our DNA that prey animals look lifeless, so we'll be more okay to eat them. And there's like,
that's
Damn.
it's true, and that's why they scare us so much when you got to stare into those weird eyes.
Just those dead, lifeless eyes. Yeah.
That's why the witch had to distract Caleb from looking at her eyes with all that fucking cleavage.
But
I thought that was the funniest scene. I'm sorry. I know I've mentioned it twice. I could not stop laughing when Caleb just does this sad, just inevitable walk of shame into the forbidden bosom.
with the Thomason bosom scenes, like I said, it always rings untrue to me, and I just think that this 12-year-old was like uncomfortable to do this in the movie.
Yeah, probably. He's probably, this is straight.
Yeah.
or like I like this, but I don't want her to know I like it. We're just acting. We're just playing. We're just acting.
Right. Yeah. That's it's every kid actor ever when they're around a.
Well, no, Alex had me. Alex once directed a play and made me act in it. And when I got the script, I was like, "What?" Because the whole show is called Fat Pig, right? It's a Neil LaBute play, and the whole gist is essentially a guy wants to date an overweight woman, and Alex was like, "You would be perfect for this role." I came in, and it's just a guy who constantly says how horrible fat women are, and the lead actress was the nicest lady, and we were having a hard time. She's like, "Really, my feelings won't be hurt. Like, go for it." And I was like, "This sucks."
It was the first read through. Griffey pulled me aside. He's like, "I don't think I should do this. This is like I actually
couldn't
like
look
this."
her in the eye. I felt horrible.
It's like I actually like this person, and I'm like, "Dude, she's a professional. Like, don't worry about it."
Yeah,
but
when she gave me the green light, it was
poor
on,
Caleb.
But...
Poor Caleb.
Yeah,
just
poor fucking dude. Caleb is doing massive amounts of work in this movie, which I did not give him enough credit for. He's really got a lot of weight.
Yeah,
that's one of the main problems. It's like when in that time period, even now in like Amish country, he is a man. He is old enough to do all this stuff. But Dad, honestly, he doesn't even know. He doesn't even know how to use a flintlock rifle. He just got it. You don't put the whole ass rope in there. You cut off a piece. You shove it in. He has no idea what he's doing.
I thought that was just a gun thing I didn't know because I was like, this seems
that's
wrong.
why it blew up on him.
Okay. I know jack shit about guns or cars, so I just take everything I see in movies as fact. But
and that dude doesn't know anything either.
Yeah.
And so since he doesn't know shit, he can't teach his son shit except about the Bible.
Yeah.
And he's not going to teach him how to chop wood because that's his job.
Yeah.
Right.
Well remembered, but not well understood, Dad. Yeah. I don't know, man. I watch this movie and it's like I kind of come back to this one to get inspired now. Mm-hmm. I think it's just craft just flows in abundance in this movie. I mean, from the actors to the script to the pacing to the score. I mean, like you said, Alex, when that Black Phillip voice hits, that's a fucking sledgehammer moment. Yeah. And you can't get that unless you have done so much work to earn it. And I just think this movie's fucking beautiful, man.
Yeah, you can't do it unless you've built. The dread is just incredible. Like, I don't think I've ever watched a movie that builds and builds dread in a meaningful way to like up to that moment. Like even beyond that moment, you're like, what is going to happen? Like, it's just a fucking masterclass in mood and tone. And honestly, like how to tell a story that like is oddly timeless and shouldn't be, but like it is just one of those things like you were saying,
letting
like,
silence speak for itself. It's amazing. That going back to the witch cutting up the baby scene, that is Nosferatu levels of leaving it to the imagination.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's something we just don't do anymore. It's really he's great.
It's incredible. God. It is funny I left the theater the first time so mad that it wasn't scary. And you're like, there's a baby just massacring witch massacring a baby into suntan lotion. And I was like, meh. It's like I look at it now and I'm like, what the fuck was wrong with me?
You got problems,
dude.
Well,
this was pretty much the creation of a genre. This was the beginning of it. I mean, there were more before this, but this was the beginning of the horror trend that we have right now. Like you were saying earlier, the beginning of this A24 track that we're on.
Very much so.
And so it's hard to your expectations were that you couldn't possibly have known what you were about to see.
Yeah. And I think it's funny looking back, our friend Josh Lobo said that on the Fear Street ones. He's like, I would never even try to make another witch movie. Like, this movie pretty much just fucking dominated it. And it's because I always think that the premier movie witch to me is the witch from Pumpkinhead. I saw that as a young man, and it has been in like the dark places of me my whole life and scares me on dark nights still. And I think this one, it's funny because it's a movie called The Witch, and I really don't think the witch is an enormous part of this film, right? Again, I think she just represents nature and dark. No, I don't
the title
so.
witch
is
Thomason.
I didn't
the
see
story
that
is
witch
about
at the
Thomason.
bonfire.
What?
Yeah, you would think that witch would be at the bonfire, that maybe we'd get a little cutaway to a
she is
fellow
over there.
Union
She's
member.
the only old one. She doesn't fly with the rest
right.
of them right
She's
away.
not
That's
in
right.
her Esmeralda look. She's an old lady.
That's the witch. Shit.
Fuck, dude. Okay, so there you go. Yeah,
I never even thought about that.
I don't know, man. It's just a fucking awesome movie. It really is.
It is
an incredible film. And yeah,
I think I like what we've come to here. That, like, he called it a folktale. Some people make up folktales based on things that actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it makes me think of Amityville, where, like, I hope you guys are on the same page as me that ghosts aren't real.
I mean, I want them to be. I want everything to be real. I just assume they're not.
I'm with you on that. But so there was a horrific murder at Amityville. There were two separate horrific murders at Amityville, and as the story went on and on and on, pretty quickly, because it was the 70s and they wanted to churn out new horror movies, it immediately turned into a folktale. We still do that now.
Yeah. And
this is the Amityville of the 1660s. This guy, if we're talking about a folktale based, like the way that folktales really happen, where they're based on things that actually happened, and somebody from that town told this story, this guy's pride is the way to tell people never to leave the town. Yeah. Like, he had his Amityville moment. He had his Jack Torrance moment.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was stuck with, right? Is because I don't think there's ghost and haunted, but I do think there are haunted places, right? I think there are places we go and we know something bad happened, and then our mind starts working against ourselves, right? And unraveling. And so it almost becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think a lot of that, is in this movie too, where if you constantly see the devil in everything, that motherfucker's going to show up in some form or another, whether it's a goat or just an angry dad or a pissed off teenage daughter, whatever. The devil will come to find you if that's all you ever think about.
Totally.
You dictate your own reality.
Yeah.
You create the symbols to interpret the world around you.
Yeah. Well, fuck yeah, man. That's it for The Witch. Jay, you were phenomenal, man. You came in ready.
This is great.
I would love to come back if I can.
Open invite, man. Would you like to tell everyone
have you
one
done
more
Highlander?
time? Okay, so I don't know if you know this about me. Highlander's my favorite movie of all time. And I love it so much that I've been so afraid to ever try to talk about it for fear that it won't be the greatest Highlander episode of all time. So I've been mentally preparing for years to do Highlander. But yes, you would be welcome on a Highlander pod.
Yes.
Would you like to tell everyone one last time where they can find you on the socials?
At J Rollins Art. That's Jay.
Awesome.
J Rollins. Rollins like Henry.
Like Henry, that's right. And we'll put all that in the show notes and details, guys. Make sure you find Jay's stuff. You know the deal, guys. 31 days, 31 months. It's so much, but we love it. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.